Let's talk now with former Chief. Eric Warfield joins us here in the zone. He is a host of Chief Concerns podcast of the Believe Podcast Network, host with Jason Dunn. We got a chance to talk with Jason Dunn last week and now talking with Eric Warfield. Eric, how are you, sir?
Doing well, and yourself?
I am doing just fine. I appreciate you joining us. Let's start off with this. What are you up to now? What's going on in the life of Eric Warfield?
I'm just out here in Dallas, Texas, trying to get a new start on life down here in the South. And, you know, I was born here in not here, but down in the South in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and grew up in Texarkana, Arkansas. So I kind of wanted to get back close to home and the family. So I figured Dallas was the place to go. Been here for 5 years and enjoying every day of it. You know, I've met some great people here. I've kind of picked up golf. Not good at it. Don't think I'll ever be good at it. But I enjoy the sport. Love the competition of it.
How often do you play? I mean, we're talking about the American Century Championship going on today, and Mahomes and Kelsey and all these other athletes out there. How often do you get out there to play?
I try to get out at least twice a week. My body isn't physically able to get out as much. You know, having a lot of back issues, which I was dealing with in Kansas City, so I've been dealing with that for over 20 years. Ankles, knees, anything you can think of, I'm having issues with it. So. But I love the sport. You don't have to hit the ball very far as long as you keep it in the fairway.
That's true. That's true. Just hit it straight if you can. Eric Warfield is our guest. Played 8 years with the Chiefs. This is one of those things that, we had a conversation, it might have been a year ago or a while ago on the show, where we were talking about numbers for the Chiefs and guys that have numbers that you just always will associate with. And you are one of the names that came up because, look, I know Harvey Williams wore 44 and Dorian O'Daniel wears it right now, but I'll never see a 44 in a Chiefs uniform without thinking of Eric Warfield. It'll always be Eric Warfield's number.
You know, that's odd because I never picked that number. Alan Wright gave me that as soon as I came in during the off-season OTAs, basically, after the draft. And I said, and I wondered, like, why in the heck did they give me a 44? Like, I'm not a linebacker. I'm not that big of a safety. But then again, they was moving me to corner. So I don't know of any corner that wears a 40 number that big, although James Hasty was wearing number 40.
He wore 40, yeah.
But James was huge.
Yeah.
Like, James looked like a linebacker. So I'm like, okay, I don't fit his description. So why are they giving me 44? But, you know, they gave it to me. I made the team with it. So I just kept it the rest of the way.
Makes sense, yeah. How visiting with Eric Warfield, before we get into like the Chiefs now and the game now and things like that, you switched from safety to cornerback in the NFL, and L'Jarius Sneed is with the Chiefs. He's a fourth rounder. He was really good last year. He's a guy that did play corner in college, and then his last year and a half, he ended up playing safety. The Chiefs saw the film, said, you know what, we like him more as a corner. We know he can translate there. We've also seen film of him as a corner, so we're going to draft him as a cornerback, put him there, and he's been really good. You never played corner in college, so the Chiefs draft you and want to move you to a cornerback. What was that like when you transitioned to the NFL and you're playing a position that you didn't play in college at all, and you're drafted to do something different than you did in college, where at least L'Jarius Sneed, had played it in college for a year or two?
You know, L'Jarius is a great athlete. You know, outside of his injury, I think he would have gone on to do great things for us. So I know I am expecting big things out of him this year for whatever role that they put him in. I know they can put him inside at nickel, they can put him outside at corner, and they can also line him up at safety if needed be. So he's one of those kind of an X factor that's for us, that's really talented, that's got experience. You know, just had the injury to keep him out. But coming into this season, I think he'll do well for us. Now, me, on the other hand, I had never covered anybody one-on-one, not in high school, not in Pee Wee leagues, whatever you want to call it, or college. And so it was very different. And the good thing with me was I had a group of guys in Dale Carter, Mark McMillan, and James Hasty that kind of took me under their wings to show me different ways to use my talent, since they were all different in how they played the position as well. But just with my height and size and my quickness, I didn't have the top speed to keep up with a lot of the receivers. So, I mean, I did kind of struggle with a lot of deep routes. But I used everything else that I got from those guys to learn the position and to go on with and get an 8-year career.
Yeah. What did they tell you when they drafted you? Did you think that you would be drafted as a corner, or was that as much of a surprise to you?
Heck no, that was a big surprise to me. I got the call and it was like, "Hey kid, we enjoyed your workout, but we think we'd like to see you at a corner." And so I'm sitting there thinking the entire time, like, man, I have never played this position in my life. I see it, I know what they do because I'm the safety. I'm the last man of the defense, and so just to see what the corners do on a daily basis, or not on a daily basis, but a play by play basis. That was a difficult task, but I ended up having time to learn it. And like I said, I learned from a good group of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not. It wasn't the greatest career, but it was a good career for myself.
It's interesting, like how things, are different if guys go to different places. Like we always wonder about, what if Aaron Rodgers was drafted by the 49ers? What if Patrick Mahomes went to the Bears?
No, we don't want to
think about that one, right? Where guys would be at the old joke of, oh, don't go to Cleveland, don't go to Cincinnati. But I wonder, like, if you weren't drafted in the 7th round, so if you go undrafted and you're then an undrafted free agent, I would guess that you and your agent would make it a priority that you would sign with somebody that would be playing you at safety, correct?
Of course.
Yeah. So
that'd be my guess also.
It's interesting the career. Maybe it would have been better. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the flip side could have been true, that corner was your position in the NFL that was going to get you to stick for almost a decade.
I'm not sure, but either way, I'm blessed to have had an 8-year career with Kansas City.
Yeah. Visiting with Eric Warfield, our guest. He is one of the hosts of the Chief Concern podcast with Jason Dunn. What's that conversation, the podcasting life like for you now, going from a player to now an analyst that's talking about the players?
So it's not more so. I don't consider myself an analyst. It's more friendly conversation than anything. And I struggled mentally with a lot of things, in life after football and whatever else. And so I got the inbox message from Marcus Dash about starting up a podcast. And I had seen quite a few guys doing it. And, when you're dealing with stuff mentally, you don't like to share a whole lot with anybody except for the people that are closest to you. And, a lot of my teammates were going through some things mentally, and a lot of other ex-players were. And I just saw the podcast as a way of me kind of getting out of my own head, kind of, if certain players, former players, current players were to listen and they could hear the things that I was kind of dealing with and going through, whether it was through my NFL career or post-career, it could help them along the way. And that's kind of what it's been for me. And now it's just turned into, I never thought that we'd be this many months into it. I honestly thought it was just going to be a seasonal thing. And all of a sudden it's turned into every week we're doing this podcast on Thursdays. And it's a great group of guys that, that I've kind of gotten a different relationship built with. I built something with Jason Dunn back with the Chiefs, and started something very different here with him and Marcus, and I love it.
It's interesting and fascinating from the standpoint that, it may not be to where you're talking and discussing and working through maybe some issues off the field or away from the podcast, but maybe even just the conversation and talking about, reliving those days or discussing your experiences, or as you said, just friendly conversation sounds to a level of therapeutic to you as well, even though it may not be specifically where, let's focus on this issue or this issue and work through some of these problems.
It is, and that's exactly how I saw it going through the season. It was very therapeutic for me. And, Marcus, he was with a news channel out in the D.C. area. And when he hit me with this, I, again, saw it as a way to just kind of get back into the depth of what football meant and what it meant to me as a person. And it helped me a lot because it brought back so many memories of what I did, what I didn't do, what I could have done, how I can, again, share my story and do the same thing with Jason. And so it came to the point of, he was sending these questions out weekly. And so you get to revise these questions. And we talk about them throughout the evening. And so it like I said, it helps you reminisce about certain things that heck I've forgotten all about throughout my career. You know, Marcus brings up films that where you know some of your highlights, and you know, he's done a great job of bringing this group together and making this thing happen, and I love him for that. And heck, we've even gotten a sponsor, so you know who'd have ever thought? So again,
it's awesome.
As I said earlier, I never thought it'd be this far in.
That's awesome. And then you'd be a guest on somebody else's show talking about the podcast.
Exactly.
Eric Warfield is our guest, host of the Chief Concerns podcast with Jason Dunn, the Believe Podcast Network. This is really interesting to me because we talk about athletes a lot and on the field and then sometimes off the field as well. And then when they retire, we continue talking about the guy that's wearing the jersey after that and the team that's there. And those guys that retire go on and they live their lives. You talked about a little bit ago just trying to work through some things and you know, in your life away from football. It sounds a little bit like you're rediscovering your passion and maybe rediscovering yourself to a degree with this podcast and maybe helping along the way to you know, get back at least into that element that was such a big part of your life for your entire life.
100%. You know, and I've even started attending the Ambassadors game with Kansas City, so I've kind of gotten back to seeing some of the older guys and kind of rebuilding relationships with guys before me, guys that are after me. So it's been great. You know, it's been easy for me. Heck, I've made an appearance on at least 5 other podcasts so far, and it's nothing for me to share my stories, whether it's with on the field problems of struggles of trying to cover certain receivers, or having certain defensive coordinators come in, whether it was me dealing with my off the field problems with the DUIs that I had in Kansas City or whatever else. Like, I have no problem with sharing any of that with anybody. You know, my life isn't it's not hidden. Heck, it's Google the name and it tells you everything within my life right there on Wikipedia. So I have no issues with sharing any of that. My thing was just having the opportunity to get certain things off my chest and to be able to, you know, feel normal again. You know, I didn't like the whole feeling of having so many expectations put on me, whether it was through family, friends, or fans. So, but you know, it's a step-by-step process that I'm going through, and like I said, the podcast has been a good stepping stone for me.
When you look back and you know, you said that you have no problem talking about it. So if I am bringing up stuff that's, you know, speaking out of turn, then just
I'll go for
certainly let me know. But you mentioned the DUIs, and that was certainly an unfortunate part. When you look back on your career and maybe even your life and post-career, and you're talking about figuring some things out with you and dealing with some stuff that, you know, maybe had been going on, you look back, do you think you were going through some of those same things sort of mentally and finding ways to cope that you just didn't realize it at the time, and now you look back and say, you know, maybe if I had this or this information or that, things could have been different, or along those lines, that maybe it just became exacerbated once football was over?
You know what? I got paid a lot of money. I could have afforded a cab on any given night, and I didn't. And I did a show with, can't remember the guy's name, and he shared it. And again, you know, social media can eat you alive if you let it. And one of the guys commented, and he said that I was just an arrogant player. Like, you know, I was given many opportunities, and even if the Chiefs did bring other guys in to take my position and they didn't, you know, he spoke of me being arrogant. I never thought of myself as being an arrogant person. There was just times to where, you know, when I became the starter for Kansas City, a lot of criticism did come with it. And I know that I can go out and play a game and get graded out great amongst the team and the coaches, and at the end of that game, I might have given up that one play, that one big play to cost us that game. And the fans see that part, and you know, I'm the bad guy. You know, I get all the criticism that, and granted, it comes with the sport. And so I was at that time, I didn't know how to accept any of that. I came from a pretty good high school to where I was, loved by all. I came from a great college program to where we were considered, probably still to this day, one of the greatest college football teams ever. 3 national championships, 2 losses. So I didn't deal with any criticism then. And then I get to the Chiefs as a pro player. I didn't really understand how you dealt with whether it was something from the fans or whether it was something from the media. Reading the newspapers, hearing it on the news. And so, I took it to myself. And whether it was trying to drown my miseries in alcohol and not really caring of life and taking those chances of driving while intoxicated, that was something that I did that I wish, yes, I could take it back. And right now, all I can do is share my story in hopes of helping someone else not do the same thing.
Yeah, you've got a lot of knowledge and experience and wisdom through the years of making the mistakes that, being able to give back or help somebody else out that might be going through the same thing of transitioning from college to the NFL, that, it makes a difference. Because, look, if you're in the NFL, you're probably a pretty damn good college player. So
yeah.
You probably, and a really good high school player. So you probably didn't have a whole lot of criticism. And then you're getting paid a lot of money. And with that certainly comes expectations. And it also, but with that also, Eric Warfield's our guest, with that also, unfortunately, whether it's societal or empathy or whether it's humanity, there isn't a whole lot of sympathy for someone that makes a lot of money that might be going through something that it's just like, well, too bad you make a lot of money. Like, there's that element probably of trying to deal with the aspect of you do make a lot of money to do that. There's pressure that comes along with it, and people don't really care about the pressure or the failures or anything like that because too bad you make the money. So, just do it.
Exactly. But then again, it's like I still have family issues on the other side of that. They don't see that part. They can see, they don't want to hear the excuse of, okay, you're going through this. You got the money, get a therapist, deal with it. We expect you to, you're human. You're going to make a mistake. So deal with it. It's not that easy, especially when it wasn't just football. It's stuff from different angles that I had to try to manage, and I didn't know how to manage it at all at the time.
Eric Warfield is our guest, and now you're doing this podcast, Chief Concerns podcast, and the Believe Podcast Network. One of the things that I was curious in talking to you about, let's talk some football here, is that the evolution of the game. You were at the tail end of your career when the rules started to change in favor really pretty dramatically towards the offense. We had just started to see some of the roughing the passers. The late hits were starting to be emphasized early 2000. Helmet to helmet was then emphasized early 2000. After Tom Brady, when your career was over, then it was a hit below the knee. Now it's breathing on certain quarterbacks is also a roughing the passer. But more from your perspective, that Colts-Patriots playoff game in which the Patriots were just mugging the Colts receivers resulted in a lot of changes in how the game was officiated, whether that was illegal contact, defensive holding, defensive pass interference. You played 2 more years with that sort of change. How different was that from a cornerback, from maybe what you guys were doing from 1998 to 2003 or 4? And then those last 2 years you were in the NFL when it was going to be more strictly enforced of illegal contact, defensive holding, defensive pass interference.
So as a defender, it's tough, and especially as corners. I mean, because you're basically having to guess at a reaction of a guy that's running a 4-2. And so you're always at a disadvantage. But then again, the 5 yards that you get to contact on this guy, that was even kind of 50-50 depending on the refs that you had at that game. And so it's tough because now you're having to change up much of what you knew at first, trying to really play safe and not get these penalties because it's crucial. I mean, it could be, cost you the biggest play of the game. But nowadays it's so tough of having you can't. Back in those days, the guys were kind of scared to run across the middle.
Yeah,
because they know they're going to get their helmet taken off. there's guys that are in the Hall of Fame right now for some of these big hits. Nowadays, you're getting ejected. So you have to watch how you approach the guy that you're going to tackle, because you have to have your head up, and you kind of have to be hesitant because you have to nowadays let them catch the ball and get their feet on the ground. There's no big blow-up hits, and so there's no fear of guys running across the middle of making the big plays. There's no fear of big hits and guys running backs running through the middle. So I mean, it's a totally different game. But being on the retired end of it and seeing some of the effects that it's caused to some of the guys that I've played with and played against, I mean, I completely understand it, because there's some scary situations that go on after that guys have to deal with from these hits, and I really understand what the NFL is trying to protect themselves and the players. So I do get it, and I can't complain much about it. But when you're out there and you're playing, it sucks. It sucks big time to see that, especially if you don't have the front seven that's putting the pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
On every given play. So if you're just out there just running around trying to do your job, it's gonna suck as a DB.
I know, like, it's interesting. You talked about, some of the effects that you see now on friends and post-playing of, playing the game that it was played, where it was, as you said, going over the middle. And, are you going to go catch the football, or are you going to protect yourself and maybe make as they call it, a business decision as to whether or not to do that? Do you ever look back and marvel that, you played 8 years in something that was as violent as the NFL?
Oh, yeah. And, given the opportunity again, would I play it 100%? I love football to death. I love watching every aspect of it, whether it's the little kids out there, the high school kids, college into the pros. I wish there was a way we could have it year-round, but it probably wouldn't survive, and as they've tried with the XFL. So, but, yeah, it's something that I love, and again, and if you ask me to play it back in those days again, knowing what I know now, I definitely would.
Eric Warfield is our guest. As you look back then, the Chiefs are coming off the Super Bowl loss, disappointing loss. Travis Kelce yesterday on NFL All Access said it was embarrassing, and when you get a shellacking like that, you're going to be extra motivated. So it was certainly a disappointing end, and now they're returning this year with, again, a really good team. I want to go back to that team you were on in 2003. That was a really good team that had an incredibly disappointing loss in the playoffs. Yep. And next year it resulted in 7-9. What do you make of her? How could you maybe explain, if that's the right word, from how good you guys were in 2003 to the disappointing season in 2004? Was it a carryover of just how disappointing and difficult that divisional game was to get over? Was it maybe you guys overachieved in 2003 that played just a magical season to put yourself in that position? How do you sort of balance those two from such an awesome ride to an unfortunate next year?
Yeah, we just kind of lost the flair. I don't know where or how, and because I know we had high expectations going into that next season. Mm-hmm. Brought in some key pieces and thought we made some upgrades, but yet it just didn't play out the way we imagined. But, yeah, that 2003 season was magical, and it's just unfortunate that, we had that no-punt game against Indy, to where I really thought that we were the team to win it all that year. Just that, again, our defense wasn't able to complement the offense. So that's what it came down to. But this Chiefs team now is way different than what we were. But you see a lot of similarities in the offense having to carry the team majority of the way. But even with the defense, they have just way more playmakers, proven guys that have done it game in, game out. So I'm expecting them to be back in the Super Bowl this year and expecting them to win it all.
What is that like, being on the other side of a side of the football that is the side that carries the team, as you say, or the glamour side, or people talk about Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, and it's like, man, if the defense is just okay, they can win a Super Bowl. That was the feeling, back when you played with Vermeil and that team was, man, if the defense could just be middle of the pack, the offense is so good, the offensive line, Priest, Holmes, what they could do. What's it like to be on a team that it's viewed as your side of the football is the issue?
Well, I don't know of very many teams that are just that complete.
True, yeah.
To where both sides are just, amazing. That you see that. I basically you only see that in college. So yeah, one aspect of the team is going to be way better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that we didn't have any Pro Bowlers on defense, but we didn't think that we were that bad of a defense, especially that 03 year, because I think we led the league in turnovers, and but the bad thing about that year that I remember, I think we were giving up more yards than any team on the ground, though, so we weren't able to stop the run. Just unfortunate that it was just a passing game attack against any that got the best of us. But yeah, we didn't think that we were that bad of a defense. We just knew that our offense was special. And we were proud of that. Our job was to go out and to hold many teams under to 13 points, get as many turnovers as we could. And if we could do that, we knew our offense was able to go out and put up 21 on any given team. And it was just, for us as a defense, just special to be a part of it and to go out and to see what, special things that the offense is going to do. And on top of that, you got an amazing special teams player, Dante Hall, that was a highlight to watch. So, and I think it's kind of the same thing with the team now. Tyrann Mathieu is amazing. Chris Jones is amazing. And those guys are a part of something, because the defense kind of struggles throughout the year. We weren't getting a whole lot of pressure on quarterbacks. We weren't making all the big stops that we needed. But, you got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill back there on offense. That's always going to give you what you need with just a few seconds left. So, you can't hang your hat because you're not able to complement the offense. You just have to go out and play every play, get as many stops as you can, and make the big plays when you can.
Was there a moment in 03 to where you guys felt like, all right, this is a special year? Was there something along the lines that you guys felt like, all right, we're here, we are good enough to win this thing?
When we
year?
got to 5 wins in a row. It wasn't
so
the
5-0
win. It was like 5-0. It was like, okay, we got something special here. It's not just a fluke. Most teams can start off 2-0, 3-0, and all of a sudden just fall apart. But when you get to 5-0, it's like, okay, you've kind of done something, and you need to keep this thing rolling. And then it went to 6-0, and it went to 7-0. So yeah, I think right about 5-0, we knew we had something special. But the main thing was that it was more so with the defense. Like the offense knew, like, hey, guys, we can do this. You guys just continue doing the things that you're doing. We have what it takes on offense to get us to the big game, to the big dance. And it's just, again, like I said, that unfortunate game against Indy to where basically their defense wasn't able to stop our offense, and our defense wasn't able to stop their offense. So
there's that season, one play sticks out to me where I thought, as a fan at the time, like, okay, well, this is a team that's really good, and who knows what the season could be. And it was with 8.5 minutes left to go in the game in Lambeau, down 31-21 after Priest had scored a touchdown. And Jerome Woods has the interception, 80 yards, and pulls within a field goal. And then you guys end up winning on the Eddie Kinnison touchdown in overtime. That, to me, was like that Jerome Woods interception still is in my mind. I can see it like it's yesterday of going, oh, my God, like this team is special.
Yep.
That was the moment for me.
I don't know what game of the season that was, but yeah.
It was game 6. That took you guys to 6-0. Yeah. So
it was right around the 5-6-0, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Where it's like, yeah, even as a fan, you have to see and be like, okay, this is our year. And I know as a player, that's how we felt. you get to 2-0 and you can't really hang your hat on that. Be like, okay, well, this is, we're the team to beat. You're still early in the season. Heck, some teams are just getting into the feel of things after training camp and preseason. But when you get to that 5-6-0, you can really look forward to something special at the end of the year.
Eric Warfield, our guest, host of Chief Concerns podcast with Jason Dunn and the Believe Podcast Network. Eric, I really appreciate the time, man. I had a blast, enjoyed it, and continued success with you and what's going on in your life and the podcast as well. Sounds like it's going really well. You're enjoying it, and things are starting to at least happen even with the podcast as well. Thank you so much for the time.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Let me know whenever I can get back on here.
Absolutely, man. There's Eric Warfield, number 44. Will forever be number 44 in my mind with the Chiefs.